Not hell nor suffering is punishment from God. In fact, God does not punish us, but we punish ourselves by engaging in the actions that separate us from God. However, separation is the greatest illusion. Think, how can you ever be separated from God? God, by definition, is omnipresent. God is everywhere, always. And so if God is always with you, then you can never be apart from God. And if you can never be apart from God, that means you are already one with God. But we do not experience this. We experience separation. Why? It is because most of us experience life as a mind inside of a body, or we believe ourselves to be a soul inside of a body. And so a sense of individuality is needed in order to experience. Separation is needed to experience God. As it has been said before, the sharpest knife in the universe can cut many things, but it can never cut itself. The greatest scale in the world can weigh anything, but it can never weigh itself. And the greatest Superman eyes can see infinitely out into the galaxy and infinitely down into the quantum realm, but they can never see themselves directly. So too, this experience with God, we are one with, but we can never experience ourselves directly. That is why separation is needed in order to experience ourselves. Yes, I am making the claim that you are God. That is your true essence, your soul, your consciousness. But we experience separation from ourselves, from our true selves, because of our identification with the mind. Only in the mind does hell exist. And I can show you how to go there, or avoid it if you wish. Because energy, this force of creation, this consciousness, this God essence, it in itself is the force of life. But with the powerful human mind, this energy now has the potential for creation and destruction. You can point it in a negative direction or point it in a positive direction. And so it is precisely where we point our mind that determines whether or not we are headed towards hell or headed towards heaven. If this right here is God and this is the mind, if the mind is pointed back towards God, then you will continue to experience coming closer and closer and closer. But if your attention, your mind is focused out this way, out into the world over here, in material things, then your attention is separated from God, and God is cut out from your experience. And then what happens for a lot of people is that they find God once again through nature or music or relationships, things out into the world. God's coming for you either way. Best prepare yourself. The idea that we are punished by God is like an anthropomorphic mistake that we make. We make God in our image rather than the other way around. So we think that God is a great big judge who is smashing his hammer thing and sending people to their judgment. But it's much more logical than this. It's much more like 1 + 1 = 2. You input a certain value and you get that value in return. If you focus your mind on negativity, you experience negativity. If you focus your mind on goodness, then you will get goodness. If you allow the fear in, then the demons have power over you. This doesn't matter if you're a good person or a bad person, because you could be the best person in the world but still be vulnerable, be destroyed from within because of that fear, that shame, that guilt, or trauma, or whatever it is. It is not by our deeds necessarily that we find ourselves in heaven or hell, but rather it is the direction of our energy. If you look at the sun, you can understand that energy, light, heat, warmth, creation, power, these are all one and the same. These are all synonymous definitions. And so when we are perpetually giving our energy to things that drain us, like a light in a room in which the switch has been turned off, and darkness is what remains. When the light within us gets drained, when it gets washed away or stolen from us, darkness and death is what is left. Where life is not, death is. This is how we manifest death in our life. It is because we have aligned ourselves with the force of death by the things we have focused our attention on. We take on the characteristics of that which we become one with. Which is why saints, for instance, their whole existence is focusing on God, which is why they become God-like. Jesus was Jesus because he spent all of his existence in the service of God. Think about depression, for instance, which is a kind of hell. If you've ever experienced depression, you know it's like a great overwhelming darkness in your life, or like a great big weight, a burden, like a black hole that you can't get out of. You might be able to see how this relates to things in the universe. For instance, a star and a black hole are opposites. Life, death, creation, destruction, order, chaos, energy, entropy. And so when we get depressed, it is because we have aligned ourselves with the force of death. Somehow, some way, the light, the energy within us has been focused toward negativity in the wrong direction. That is why they say the price of sin is death, or that our sins are what lead us to hell. It is precisely because the sin is wasting this life, wasting this energy, sending it in the wrong direction, being imbalanced. This is the essence of morality. Whether or not something is right or wrong is derived from the value that is gained or lost. And the source of all value in existence is consciousness or energy. And consciousness is the ultimate form of energy. People or individuals' minds are a force of good or a force of evil, typically a balance of both. And so evil people, for instance, why they will find themselves in hell inevitably, no matter if they seem to get away with it on the surface, it's because you cannot create a net negative impact on the world and not be affected by it. Because we are all one consciousness. Separation is an illusion. And so whatever you do to somebody else, that will be done unto you. Because there is no difference. It is just that you do not have to suffer the consequences immediately. And so hell, if anything, is having to face the pain and the suffering that you caused during this lifetime. Ounce for ounce, every droplet will be accounted for. You can see that it's not punishment. It is sowing and reaping. If you plant a garden and you don't water it, you can't say, why is the garden punishing me? Or why is God punishing me? Why is the universe punishing me? It's like we want certain outcomes in our life and we want things to go our way, but we don't put the inputs in order to receive that outcome. Like we want heaven, we want it. We want the joy and the peace and the love, but then yet we give our attention to all of these negative things that bring us closer to hell, that drain us of our life. And so to the degree in which you suffer in this life, and I mean on a general basis, there's going to be times where we experience extreme suffering, but if on a daily basis you are depressed or anxious or feeling negative all the time, to the degree in which we suffer, we know where on the spectrum of heaven to hell we are aligned. And the key is from taking ourselves away from hell toward heaven, we have to become aware of where we are focusing our attention. Where is our mind going? Where are we directing the flow of energy in our life? And you can just observe yourself on a daily basis, like a bucket of points. You can see, oh, here's a point in which I am sending in the wrong direction. Maybe it's a negative point. And you can begin saying, oh, nope, not going to do that. Take away the negative point. Put it in the neutral bucket or put it in the positive bucket. This is how you clean up your life. This mess that you've created. Step by step, you take the easiest things to change and you change them. And you see how with each point of energy that you reserve or even give to a new and more positive habit or action or thought, things begin to compound, and day by day, more peace, more happiness begins to arise, because you have begun moving yourself away from hell and toward heaven. Because heaven is everlasting life. It is union with God, and God is the force of creation for all existence. So the more of God you have in your life, the more in heaven you are. And on a practical level, because there are two forms of energy, there are two types. Energy in form, that is our physical energy, and the ultimate energy, that is consciousness or God. These both play together to give us life. And so the best place always to start is on the physical level, because when we bring more life into our life, bring more energy, we gain power. When we gain power, we gain the strength to change our life, change our environment. We gain clarity in our mind. We gain more control to point our mind in the proper directions. However, when we're in that black hole, say at the bottom, the only thing that we can focus on is more negativity. There's suffering everywhere. I hate everything. Life is terrible. You are surrounded by darkness, and it becomes incredibly difficult even to get out of bed in the morning, because you've lost the will to live. You cannot have the will to live without life. When your energy is drained, your life is drained. That is the source of all suicide, of all depression, of all evil, because when you are imbued and invigorated with life, you desire to create, you desire to serve and help others. You desire to make the world a more harmonious place, because you are literally a vessel for the kingdom of heaven. You are a vessel for God to work through you and to create balance and harmony. But when you are separated from this God essence, that is when you become a force of hell, a force of death and destruction and of chaos in the world. So always begin on the practical level of your physical energy, because the physical energy is the vessel for the mind and of consciousness. If this vessel is not taken care of properly, then God cannot work through you. It's like we are an instrument played by the hands of God, and life is our song. But if we are out of tune, then God cannot play us. Our life becomes a mess of noise, not harmonious. And if the life within us is drained, then we get to be played like a fiddle by the devil. And that song becomes a song of just bad things. So you can pay attention, and this requires awareness, but observe whenever something makes you feel excessively tired, or less motivated, or more lethargic, more lazy, because that will indicate that some energy has been taken from you. Now, it's good to have wisdom here. We have to have the power of discernment, because you can go to the gym and exercise, and that takes energy, but you know it is good because you have circulated the energy within your body. You have developed a machine that uses energy, and so more energy will be given. But if you engage in some kind of addictive behavior, or if you overeat or eat a bunch of nasty food, that makes you sick and gives you nothing in return. So it's not that we should just hoard our energy like a dragon or something, but that we spend it wisely. You spend your energy only on 3 things in life. Things that make you lose energy, things that neither take or give energy, and things that make you gain more energy in the long term. If you use your energy wisely, you will be rewarded with more energy. And if you waste your energy, it will continue to be taken from you. It's like that quote from the Bible, "For those who have nothing, everything will be taken. And for those who have more, everything will be given." There is a compounding effect, because like in a black hole, the closer you are to the event horizon, the more screwed you get, the more impossible it is to escape. There's a scientific term called spaghettification, in which if you were to fall in a black hole, you would get spaghettified, because the gravity at your feet and the gravity at your head would be so incredibly different, so incredibly vast. Like the gravity at your feet would be thousands and thousands of times more great than the gravity at your head, that you would get ripped apart atom by atom. Fun fact of the day. The key in all of this, however, is awareness. And once you begin valuing your energy, once you make an identity out of it, where you say, yes, I am someone who identifies as someone who values their energy, you will naturally begin seeing where your energy is going. And it will become more easy to just stop doing certain things. And as you continue, as you begin taking your energy away from things that steal it and giving it to things that provide more energy in return, the natural sense of peace and joy and love will arise. And whenever you are separated from that, the contrast becomes so great and the suffering increases. And so it becomes more and more obvious what things you should not do. If you are experiencing peace all the time and you have a certain kind of thought, and then immediately you feel yourself to be lowered, or you feel yourself to be more uneasy, then immediately you can see, oh, wait a minute, that thought created this effect. I'm not interested in having those kinds of thoughts. Because a lot of the times, a certain thought might arise and we follow it, and we let the train of thought do its thing, not realizing that whatever the quality of the thoughts that we are having create a similar emotional effect, even on the most subtle level. So if we're lacking in awareness, we might go throughout our day, unconsciously be reacting to thoughts all the time, and always feel just this sense of dissatisfaction or uneasiness or tension in our body, or irritation or anger or even sadness, because we're not paying attention to our thoughts. We're not consciously choosing where we are focusing our mind. And that is how most people live their lives as slaves. Things outside of their control direct their whole life. So they live a life that is not of their own choosing. But once you realize the God essence within you, this force of creation, then you realize that you can create any life that you desire regardless of the external circumstances. If you are in hell, you can make your way to heaven, because it all comes down to where you focus your mind. The quality of our entire life is determined by the quality of the things that we choose to focus our attention on. And so the more conscious you become, the better world you can create.